Japan, Okinawa. A massive system of destructive winds and unrelenting rain enveloped the southern prefecture of Okinawa on Monday, June 1, 2026, as Typhoon Jangmi made its highly anticipated and deeply disruptive closest approach to the island chain. The storm, classified under domestic meteorological tracking metrics as Typhoon No. 6, hit the island with maximum sustained winds near its core reaching 75 miles per hour, approximate 120 kilometers per hour, and peak momentary gusts violently pulsing up to 100 miles per hour, approximate
160 km/h.
The atmospheric pressure dropped swiftly to a critical 975 hectopascals, HPA, signaling a dangerous concentration of cyclonic energy that rapidly manifested in severe structural damage, intense urban flash flooding, and unprecedented maritime surges across peripheral islands like Yoron and the Kerama cluster. By late Monday night, local disaster management authorities confirmed that at least 9 individuals in Okinawa Prefecture had sustained notable injuries, predominantly resulting from sudden atmospheric wind blasts that literally knocked pedestrians off their feet or propelled shattered residential debris through urban corridors. Over 17,000 homes were thrown into complete darkness as high-voltage electricity lines collapsed under the strain of falling vegetation and violent wind pressure. Furthermore, the region faced immediate economic stagnation as major aviation carriers, including Japan Airlines, JAL, and All Nippon Airways, ANA, systematically canceled more than 400 flights originating from or bound for Naha Airport. This effectively stranded thousands of business travelers and seasonal tourists while slicing off the isolated island prefecture from the rest of mainland Japan. The genesis of Typhoon Jangmi, known colloquially in the Philippine tracking zone as Tropical Storm Daming, dates back to late May 2026, when a highly organized area of low pressure began intensifying over the warm, energy-dense waters of the Philippine Sea. Fueled by anomalous sea surface temperatures that registered significantly above the long-term historical average, the system systematically transitioned from a tropical depression into a full-scale tropical storm by May 28. According to historical tracking records provided by the Digital Typhoon Database, the storm maintained a strict north-northwesterly trajectory at a steady forward clip of roughly 15 to 25 kilometers per hour. As Jangmi crossed into the southern maritime threshold of Japan's exclusive economic zone over the weekend, it rapidly achieved Category 1 typhoon status. On June 1st, the dense eye wall of the storm grazed the central and southern corridors of Okinawa Island. Although the actual geometric center of the eye did not make a technical landfall directly on the Naha municipality, the physical diameter of the typhoon, spanning hundreds of kilometers, meant the entire landmass of Okinawa was subjected to the maximum quadrant of the storm's destructive wind field. The interaction between Jangmi's outer bands and a pre-existing seasonal rainy seasonal front created a dangerous meteorological compounding effect. This forced moisture levels to skyrocket and unleash torrential downpours that consistently exceeded 30 to 50 millimeters of water per hour in localized zones. The human and material toll of Typhoon Jangmi began escalating sharply during the early hours of Monday morning. As the leading edge of the storm's eyewall struck, Okinawa's power grid experienced cascading failures. According to official press brief statements released by the regional electrical utility provider, power lines were severed primarily by 2 distinct forces: flying debris and uprooted banyan trees directly snapping secondary distribution lines. High salt spray concentration from the massive coastal wave action causing short circuits on transformers. In total, over 17,000 households across Okinawa were confirmed to be without electrical power on Monday night. The hardest hit residential areas included the southern municipalities of Itoman and Tamagusuki, alongside dense coastal communities in Yuruma City. Emergency maintenance crews were structurally grounded for most of the day, as corporate safety regulations prohibit technicians from ascending bucket trucks or working on open electrical substations when sustained wind fields exceed 25 meters per second, approximate 90 kilometers per hour. Simultaneously, the intense deluge quickly overwhelmed urban drainage networks that had already been heavily saturated by intermittent seasonal rains during late May. In downtown Naha, particularly around the low-lying commercial sectors surrounding the iconic Kakusai-dori International Street, stormwater rose to waist-deep levels within a matter of hours. Local video footage broadcast by Japan's public media network, NHK World Japan, showcased horrifying scenes of rapid flash floods, completely transforming major multi-lane provincial highways into roaring rivers. Dozens of civilian vehicles were caught in the swift current, submerged up to their windows, and dragged down municipal roads in the middle of the night. Municipal emergency dispatch centers were flooded with hundreds of distress calls from residents trapped in single-story homes or commercial basements, forcing local fire departments to deploy rubberized rescue rafts to extract vulnerable individuals. The geographical reality of Okinawa as an isolated island chain renders its society completely dependent on continuous aviation and maritime lifelines. Typhoon Jangmi effectively severed these links with absolute precision, initiating a massive logistical bottleneck across the entirety of southwestern Japan. At Naha Airport, the primary aviation gateway for the prefecture, operations ground to a complete standstill on June 1st. Terminal buildings were closed to the general public as wind speeds grew too hazardous for aircraft to safely taxi, load, or execute takeoffs and landings. Total cancellations. Major domestic and regional international airlines were forced to scrub more than 400 flights on Monday alone. Cascading effects. The logistical chaos was not limited to the island. The ripple effects stretched across East Asia. Over 160 additional flights slated for Tuesday, June 2nd, were preemptively canceled as carriers worked frantically to reposition aircraft that had been evacuated to mainland hubs like Tokyo Haneda, Osaka Kansai, and Fukuoka Airport. On the water, the situation was equally severe. All ferry services connecting the Okinawan mainland to peripheral islands, such as Tokashiki, Zamami, and the more distant Miyako and Yaeyama groups, were completely suspended. Maritime authorities recorded maximum significant wave heights reaching a terrifying 9.1 meters, approximate 30 feet, in the open channels, making any form of seafaring suicide. Cargo vessels carrying crucial perishable food supplies, medical inventories, and commercial goods were forced to drop anchor in protected deep water bays or delay their journeys from the ports of Kagoshima and double back. Meanwhile, Okinawa lacks a bullet train network. The JMA and Central Japan Railway Company issued unprecedented warnings regarding the mainland's transportation corridors. As Jangmi tracked north toward Kyushu and the Pacific coast of Honshu, operators warned that the highly synchronized Takedo Shinkansen line, the economic spine connecting Tokyo, Nagoya, and Osaka, could face extensive operational shutdowns or severe delays starting Tuesday night, June 2nd, through Wednesday, June 3rd, due to the projected arrival of the storm's massive rain bands. For the local Okinawan civilian population, the arrival of Typhoon Jangmi served as a brutal trial for Japan's recently updated and rigorously overhauled National Disaster Information System. Following structural evaluations of past storm responses, the Japanese government introduced a revised, highly structured 5-tier disaster warning framework aimed at eliminating public ambiguity during extreme weather events. During the height of Jangmi's impact on Monday, emergency management officials in several high-risk municipalities across Okinawa officially issued Level 4 evacuation warnings, Paringat and Awas/evacuation alert. In the revised statutory system, Level 4 represents the final actionable phase before disaster strikes. It explicitly dictates that all citizens residing in designated hazardous areas, such as coastal cliffs prone to mudslides, low-lying river plains, or non-reinforced older wooden structures, must immediately evacuate their properties and relocate to municipal concrete shelters. Local mayors and disaster response units use the country's high-decibel municipal loudspeaker networks, which are installed on towers throughout every neighborhood, to blast siren alerts and automated vocal warnings over the sound of the howling winds. Community centers, public elementary school gymnasiums, and town halls were unlocked and converted into emergency shelters outfitted with emergency food rations, clean drinking water, sleeping mats, and basic medical supplies. The elderly population, which makes up a substantial demographic portion of rural Okinawa, was assisted by local civil defense volunteers who utilized heavy all-wheel drive municipal vehicles to transport mobility-impaired citizens to safety before the onset of the storm's most violent phase.